appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I think we've got an interesting agenda. It's kind of short, so we won't keep anybody here too late. But we're going to talk about some important projects we've been wanting to get done here in the town of Jonesborough for a while, so I think we'll knock a bunch of those out hopefully in the months going forward. First thing on our agenda is our open. Someone will lead us in that.
Let us all pray. Dear Lord, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Lord. We thank you for all of the wonderful blessings that you provide and how you just continue to keep and nurture and secure, how you continue just to fill our hearts with your grace and your mercy, your love. We're truly appreciative, God, unto you. We thank you, God, for, yes, even this moment in time, there's a lot of hardship and trial and tragedy, but God, we're just grateful that we can be a help to somebody. We can show love to somebody. We can extend grace to somebody. In a lot of turmoil and a lot of ugliness in the world, God, we can be light and we can be salt. And so there's joy that can come even out of pain. And so, God, we just thank you for how you can just make all things new. We ask, God, that on this evening you guide this meeting, you guide our deliberations, and ask that everything be done to your glory. We ask it all, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Adam. Ruth, who do you have to lead the pledge tonight?
Tom Purdue.
All right.
Address the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Tom. Adam? All right, Madam Recorder, if you're ready, roll call, please.
Mayor Bass.
Here.
Alderman Callahan.
Here.
Alderman Causey.
Here.
Alderman Calamine.
Here.
Alderman Dixon.
Here.
All right, we're all present. Good to see Stephen back in town. He's been running around all over the Midwest or somewhere, weren't you?
Oh yeah, Kentucky.
All right. Glad to have
Kentucky.
you back. We're glad to have you back. You belong here. All right, we've got a pretty healthy consent agenda. Alderman, is there anything on there you wish to pull out of the consent agenda and discuss?
Mayor,
Yes.
if I could comment on one item 10, I just wanted to make sure, these are brand new, first ones you've done, but the insurance certificates do not mention the town as an additional insured, so they'll get a letter telling them they need to do that before the event if you approve it, but I did want to mention that since it is the first time you're approving those.
Yeah, sounds
I
good.
want to mention something to Abby about David Thomas.
If there's I'll have to go back and look at the ordinance to see if we required that. If we did, there is no hold harmless at this point. Yeah.
All right. Alderman, you all clear on that? Think we are? Okay.
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve the consent agenda of Alderman Countermine.
Second.
Second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Calamine.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. We just knocked out about 11 or 12 things right there. It's all kind of just bread and butter things that, some personnel things, but there's some important things in there. And, you know, one of the things that was in there, and I was going to talk about it in mayor comments, but since we approved it there, you know, we just hired a new building inspector for our town with that vote, Ryan Tapp. And what we like about that, he comes to us with all the experience in the world, fully trained from the town of Irwin. So we appreciate him coming on board. I think he's lived in Jonesborough anyway, so it made sense. This is where he would end up. And so moving forward in Jonesborough. All right, next item on our regular agenda is our financial report. I always like looking through this, and I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ron Quill Joyner today. He's come on board to help us here in the town of Jonesborough as our intern, and we got to look over these numbers and get the explained to him how they kind of work, and we looked over our sales tax dollars, and really, when you look over our financial report, I think, you know, just here for the month of September, I think we're in a probably slightly better position than we were this time last year, but got a long way to go. One great thing that he and I talked about was our sales tax collections. You know, I talk about those every meetings because I like to see that trend, and the positive trend continues. Our sales tax collections in the town of Jonesborough was up over 20%. And that's probably, percentage-wise, maybe one of the strongest months we've had. Well, unfortunately, we have this, you know, coronavirus, and but with that brings people staying home and shopping more, and that's led to, you know, greater sales tax collections, which is important to us because in other areas we have lost in, you know, rental fees of our buildings and classes and things like that where we have revenue coming in. So it's really important that you all keep shopping. Okay, it's important. All right, Alderman, is anything in the financial report you want to discuss?
Mayor, I will say that our tax notices are running a little behind because the state has implemented a new tax relief system, and it's caused them kind of running behind, but we should get those out by the end of this week or next week.
Okay. We need everybody to turn those in real quick, right? Is that what you want? Abby wants that real quick, turn around. Well, thank you, Abby. Okay, Alderman, if there's no comments, I'll take a motion to approve our financial report.
Moves to approve, Mayor.
Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon,
Second.
second from Alderman Causey. Any discussion? If not, call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Next item on our agenda is communication from myself. And I got several little things I want to talk about in here. One, it's exciting that tomorrow I think our senior center gets open just a little bit more. And just reading through the report from the team up there, you know, one thing I really liked about the reports, it talked about how our staff's been, you know, taking the seniors on walks. You know, they've been going to Bays Mountain for walks, they've been going to Rocky Fork State Park. So, you know, getting the seniors out of their home and conversing with their friends and exercising is so important at this time. So I really appreciate our staff there at the senior center continue to do what needs to be done. And our workforce team here, our streets and our water team putting in new water lines up East Main Street. We're making progress there. It's been a problem spot for us for a while, and we're slowly going around fixing all those. So Craig and the team and knocking that out, so we're making great progress on that. We've got two important little things here, and I think I'll do a winner of a scholarship of $750. I think Teresa's here to help me with that, to give out this award. You know, Beverly Jenkins, you know, one of our local artists here, an important person in our town, set up a scholarship for students. It's for $750, and Nathaniel Boer is our winner. And I'll meet Teresa down front there. I think we're going to award him some money. Yes, if you would. We'll let Teresa talk about this scholarship and everything.
Well, first of all, we give scholarships at the McKinney Center all the time for students, kindergarten through 12th grade. We want to take classes at the McKinney Center because one of our passions is to make sure that the arts is available to anyone and everyone. And so one of the most precious things about my job is I get to see that every day, and I get to see how students progress and expand their horizons, and it's just the best part of my job. This year, we took a step up, and Beverly Thomas Jenkins, who is she's a wonderful instructor at the McKinney Center. Everybody knows her for everything she does in town. She came to me and said, I want to have a scholarship in honor and in memory of her mother, Grammy Jan, for a college student who was interested in the arts. And art scholarship Nathaniel applied, and we were just so impressed with his application and some of the things he said in his essay, and I hope you don't mind, but he's not always had it easy. But one of the things he said was his mom taught him a good work ethic and perseverance, and his major is digital media, and he is a junior this year. And we were inspired by your passion and your goals for the future. And Beverly is doing the same thing.
Yeah, one of the things that Nathaniel said that struck me, he used the word kindness in his essay. And to me, that's one of the ultimate goals that all of us should aspire to, kindness towards others. As Adam said in the prayer earlier, that's what we need, is kindness towards our fellow man. And when I saw that word, I was just like, yes, this is our man here. But he's got a great GPA. I don't know, just everything about it was just a win-win for us. It called up Teresa, said, this is our guy. So, my mom was an amateur artist and had a hard life and struggled a lot, but art was her fun, happy spot. And she was painting, she was happy. And so I wanted to do something in honor of her when she died a few years ago, and I talked to Teresa, and thankfully Teresa's the bomb. She's just the best. And she and the staff at the McKinney Center have been helping me be able to do this, and I did get some donations from outside sources. My brother and my sister and I, filled in the rest. But now I'm gonna do it all on my own now for the next year. But I'm just really honored to present you a check for $750 towards your schooling, and we're really proud of you.
Well, I think one important thing that you talked about was kindness, and also, having a skill in art, I think is a God-given talent. So kindness and utilizing your God-given abilities, I appreciate you doing that. You're well deserving.
Yeah.
Thank you. We don't have Rick here tonight, do we? Okay. All right. Well, our Employee of the Month, we've been kind of holding off on that a little bit, but we've been awarding them because there's, I think, a little bit of a financial check in there for our Employee of the Month. And our winner for this past month is Rick Duvall, and he was nominated by Malcolm. And here's what Malcolm said about Rick. He said, "I'd like to nominate Rick Duvall for the distinction of Employee of the Month for October 2020. Rick is not a new face here in town, as he has been a valued town employee with the wastewater department for several years. I had the opportunity to work alongside Rick in his role as wastewater, but I also had the opportunity to work with Rick in his current role as building inspector. He and I have coordinated our efforts to ensure contractor compliance with the town and TDEC guidelines on protecting and maintaining the town's stormwater system. I have observed on several occasions the interaction Rick has with his contractors. Rick is always courteous and polite, but firm when the situation has called for that approach. Just one example that Malcolm recalled was from a contractor building a concrete access ramp for a disabled veteran in a new development. Rick quickly researched all the codes and to find that the wheelchair ramp could in fact be constructed in the way they had planned. The veteran had purchased a new home, and upon moving in realized that although he had access to the home, it was not easy. The new wheelchair ramp would be a game changer for this veteran. Rick took me to the site to get my opinion on the situation and to speak with the contractors. I remember Rick was very passionate about helping this veteran construct this ramp who had served our country and needed our help to get better access into his home. Rick worked to make that become a reality for this man. So that's why the town of Jonesborough have Rick as our town employee for the month of October. So we appreciate Rick there. And he's been a great employee for us and will always be a good employee for us. And as I said earlier, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ron Keel and discussing his first couple of weeks with the town as an intern. Been working closely with Glenn and just in different areas in our town. We'll get him more and more involved as time passes. But I asked him to come give us a little update tonight on what he's seen here the first couple of weeks. Ron Keel, you mind letting us know what's going on here?
Come up here?
Yes.
All right. So I'm talking to you guys. All right.
I've seen him speak in public, so I knew he wouldn't be shy about getting up here, so that's why I asked him.
First, I'd like to thank you guys for giving me this position. I'm deeply thankful, and I'm looking forward to the opportunities that come from it. So, the first week, kind of the first day with Mr. Rosenoff, just kind of introduced me to everybody from the chief of police to the chief of the fire department to people in the water department to just everybody. And just got to meet everybody. I'm also carrying around like a little notebook now just to kind of remember everybody's name because there's a lot of names. I'm not very good at remembering everybody's names that well. No, I mean, I see you every day. So, but the next week I met with the solid waste and recycling department and just kind of went over his facility and how it works. Mr. Jeff Thomas, director, from recycling plastics to cardboard, etc. I learned about some of his aspirations, like a MRF facility, which is just like a manufacturing recycling facility. He would like one for Washington County, which would pick up people recycling just outside of their city limits, which would be amazing. And then after that, I learned about curbside pickup and why that's not happening, essentially due to COVID. And then after that, I learned about the East Main circular economy, which is an amazing opportunity happening right now in Kingsport, which will basically allow multiple materials to be recycled infinitely, like a good amount of times, and reduce our pollution and our landfills a lot. And then today, right now, I'm currently working on Roan Impact Focus with the Jonesborough Arboretum. So basically, like the program I'm in at ETSU is called the Roan Scholars Leadership Program, and every year they have an impact focus. And so one year it could be child literacy or the opioid epidemic. This year it is sustainability in Appalachia. And so the impact could be something as simple as, using reusable straws or utensils, or to doing trail service on all the trails we have here in Appalachia. And so what I'm going to be doing with the Arboretum is basically like a work and education session. And so I'm going to have like 10 scholars, including me. We're just first going to be informed about what the Arboretum is, and then we're going to do some work on it since they need volunteers. And hopefully after that happens, then we can kind of get something going with more volunteers throughout the community. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
One thing I told him, one of our thoughts behind this position was to really get young people kind of involved in our town government, but also become knowledgeable about what happens here. It's not just about our board. It's just not a police department. There's a lot of things that go on to keep a town operating and to serve all the residents. And Ron Quill, he's the type of person that can, I think, observe everything and absorb it and take it in, then also go out and share it to more young people. And so they need to know that there's a lot of people doing good things for our community here. So looking forward to more and more. All right. Let's take a chance to thank our marketing team and event coordinators and all that for all the movies on Main. That continues to be a good thing that was birthed by Adam there. And but we had the movie Grease down there. It was pretty cool that the Country Inn and Suites was a sponsor of. And Halloween, we've got another event coming up with showing Toy Story and things like that. So I was telling Ron Quill earlier today that it's important that that we continue to do small little events so people can get out and just taste that normalcy. And these type of things that our staff's planning are very important. We've got, I guess, a drive-through jack-o'-lantern event coming up, so I hope we're not tossing jack-o'-lanterns at the cars as they drive by. Is that what that is, Glenn? Did you plan that?
Not within 6 feet.
Okay. That's gonna be a toss then. All right, so appreciate that. All right, next item on the agenda is Alderman Communications. Alderman, you got anything you'd like to say to the folks? Good. Virginia?
Good.
No. We're glad to have Virginia. She had a little spiel, but she's a tough one. And you couldn't tell it by the way she walked in here. She looked like a sheriff walking in here. But, so, Adam, Kerry?
Just to add to what you said, the Friday night stores staying open seems to be doing pretty good. I've been down there both times, and there's quite a few people around, so
Yeah, absolutely.
kudos to, again, trying to do what we can during these hard times.
Well, I ate lunch down in Jonesborough today, and I was downtown yesterday, and it seems like the traffic is picking up. I saw people walking back and forth on our sidewalks, so hopefully that continues. But continue to do events, and our marketing team's putting things out, and our entrepreneurs are doing their part, and it's we're going to weather the storm. Adam?
Well, just again in line with everybody else, good coverage on the recovery fund.
Yeah.
So really positive developments there. So helping our downtown businesses. So yeah.
Absolutely. And since this is our last meeting before the election, I'll take the opportunity to say I appreciate all the candidates that are running for alderman, the way they've conducted themselves. We've got some really nice postcards in the mail, and I tell you, they're all first class. I told Terry and Adam I was really impressed with the one they sent out. And Bill Graham, he's here tonight. He sent one out too. It was really nice. He had a dog in his picture. I think that's what we all try to get in there. And Lucas Schmidt had a nice one. I tell you what, it's really humbling to have such impressive people wanting to serve the community. So all 5 of those gentlemen would be a pleasure to work with. Very good ones. All right, next item on the agenda is town attorney comments, and I think Jim's got some things there for us to address with our school project that is at the finish line.
Mayor, a couple of things. One, by way of report, both the County Commission and the school board have now approved the changes requested by USDA to the documents for the project. You all received those on September 29th by email, and again yesterday by email. These are changes requested by USDA Rural Development as the lender went through their regional council in Little Rock, and they're basically things that if we want to use them as the lender, we've got to make these changes. So you have in front of you that I'd ask you to add to your agenda consideration of the interlocal agreement, facilities lease, and building lease modifications, the rescission of the purchase option agreement we'd entered into with the county, and the new agreement to accept title, which replaces that purchase option agreement. So I'd ask you to first add that to your agenda and then take that up, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. The changes don't really affect our interest at all. They affected the county slightly. The county was more than happy to agree to those to move forward with rural development because of the terms that we get with them.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, Alderman, can I get a motion to add these USDA contract document changes to the agenda?
So moved.
Motion to add to the agenda from Alderman Callahan.
Second.
Second from Alderman Countermine. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey. Alderman Dixon.
All right, motion carried. All right, Jim, is anything else you want to address there, or Alderman, do you have any comments about those contracts with the changes? Very good. Most of that was just, as Jim said, things that USDA preferred to be in the contracts, nothing major, but we certainly were pleased that the county commission continued to support the program and the plan, and as did the school board. Jim, is anything you want to add to what you've said already?
No, sir. We just need a motion to approve the changes as presented.
Okay. You've heard what Jim said there. Alderman, can I get a motion to approve the changes as recommended by Jim? It's in the contract.
So moved.
A motion to approve from Alderman Callahan. I got a second from Alderman Countermine. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman
motion carried. And Jim, I think, is that more than likely the last vote we'll have to be taking on the school project unless something,
No, sir.
oh, yeah. Come on.
Buckle in. You got a long way to go.
All right.
I was curious about the finish line you're talking about.
All right, Jim keeps moving the finish line on us. All right. That's,
You'll be voting all during construction, so
Okay,
you
well,
got
we're
a long
okay
way
with
to
that.
go. A lot of bids to accept, things like that.
All right.
So,
well, let's take a vote and break some ground here before long. But I think
Yes, sir.
we did have a good design committee meeting at the end of last month, and you know, Ken Ross Architects, which is now Clark Nexon, you know, came and gave a great presentation, and you know what they put together inside the school. You know, Dr. Flannery was really impressed with it, and some of the teachers that are involved in it are really impressed with it. And they put a lot of time into the location of classrooms for CDC students and also for our arts. So it's just really, they really spent some time listening to the teachers, listening to the administrators, and getting that floor plan right. And now what they're working on is what's that school going to look like, and that's going to be probably something we'll address our next two meetings. All right. Okay, Jim, anything else?
No, sir. That's all.
All right, thank goodness.
Yep.
All right. Next item on our agenda is citizens' comments. If we've got any citizens there who'd like to get up and speak to us, if you live in the city limits of Jonesborough or one of our water customers, we'd love to hear from you. Anyone like to address? Ruth, just give us your name and your address for the records.
Ruth Verhage, 601 West Main Street here in Jonesborough. Couple of things I wanted to make you all aware of. One is week before last, storytelling weekend. Paws and Blue sold 110 dozen donuts
Wow.
on Friday and Saturday. So, you know, fundraising has really been a challenge for nonprofits since everything has to be canceled. But we deposited about $1,800 as a result of that.
Very
So,
good.
you know, I'm real excited about that. But I do want to invite you and request that you make a note on your calendars. November 8th, Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock, we will be having our flag retirement ceremony. Okay, it's changed from the last Sunday in October because of Daniel Boone's schedule. They asked to be able to change it to November to work with some other things they have going on. So it'll be at 2 o'clock in the parking lot next to the post office. We will be appropriately socially distanced. We'll be outside. For any of you that have never seen that ceremony, it lasts about 30 minutes, but it's really an impressive ceremony. And our speaker this year is going to be our own Glenn Rosenoff.
Yeah.
So the ceremony only lasts about 30 minutes. I'm tied up usually all afternoon because we've been retiring several thousand flags every year.
Yeah.
But I do invite you to come on the 8th of November.
Very good. Thank you, Ruth.
Mhm.
Thank you for all those that bought donuts.
We all gained weight.
And that Paws in Blue, that's an important program for our town. That gives, you know, it's K-9 officers, and you know, they're an important addition to our police force that keeps us safe. Anyone else? Tammy?
My name's Patsy Cantor. I live at 1033 Pleasant Drive in Jonesborough. I was hoping to present tonight on a race that I'm expecting or would like to bring to Jonesborough in June of next year in conjunction with Jonesborough Days. The paperwork was turned in. You guys probably don't know anything about it, but I'd like it to be on the trails, and I think it would be a great addition to the Jonesborough Days celebration. If you'd like to see the
Yeah.
proposed.
Very nice. Nice. Would this be the first run you've held of this, or is this something you've held elsewhere?
I'm working with the State of Franklin Track Club.
Yeah.
Been in the track club for about 12 years, and we put on races in different places. And this one, we kind of experienced the trails and fell in love with them and decided to kind of look and see what was going on and realized that these trails were made by Boy Scouts
Yeah.
back in the 70s. And so we want to pay homage to these Boy Scouts. So if you haven't seen the paperwork that was submitted, please look for it, and I'll love to come and talk with you again in November.
Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Tammy?
Tammy Cloyd. My brother and I own property at 815 Shell Road. Mayor and the board, we was wondering if it would be possible to get an update on Shell Road. We have some people here tonight that would like to hear that update.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's one of the items on our agenda, one of the first items on the agenda. And we have about 6 or 7 projects that we're going to discuss tonight, and that's one of them. And the inclination I have is that that'll be one project that we will fund and get done finally. I know it's been something that's going, I think Bob Browning might have said about 20 years it's been in discussion. So it's a tough little project. Craig probably could address some of it, but it's, you know, it is a road that we need to widen and make safer. And I think we're close to hopefully deciding to do that tonight, or if it's not tonight, we'll be developing a plan to come and approve these projects at our next meeting. We'll see what happens tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed?
My name's Ed Wolf. I live at 1120 Miller Drive, Unit 101. And it's been a long time since I've been able to come to a BMA meeting. And I'd like to say that I want to thank all of you for the job you do. Frankie and I moved here about close to 17 years ago, and we have never been so impressed with a governmental body that keeps everything in balance. From every meeting that I've been to, everything I've read, we're always talking about downtown, we're talking about the infrastructure, we're talking about parks, we're talking about all those things. And I also want to point it out especially the public service departments. You know, I personally know Dennis Higgins. I won't tell you why. And I think it's Jeff White.
What?
2 great officers. And besides that, in the police department, what they have done is, I think they started Shop with a Cop, if I'm not wrong. And they also set up the drug collection, along with the fire department, which we hear so many things. But I'm confused with all the issues that are going on in Jonesborough, such as the Jackson Theater and other things that help all of our citizens. All of a sudden, we're talking about protecting the police. Why? I don't know why. Why has that become such an issue for this town? In fact, I saw you on an interview, and at the end of the interview, you made the comment, we've got to protect the police, or we've got to make sure the police are fine. And I'd just like to have an understanding of why that is the issue, rather than everything else that's going along with the coronavirus and everything else.
Okay. Well, the interview you probably are speaking of is probably more of a personal opinions between myself and some other folks who have an opinion a little bit different than I do about law enforcement. But that's more, has nothing to do with the town of Jonesborough. It's more of them having issues with my personal opinion.
But your personal opinion, you are the mayor.
Yes.
And when you spoke as the mayor. So that's why I'm asking you, as the mayor, why that's such a concern.
Well, it's probably what you see going on in other areas. I'd hate to see what happens in other cities, you know, happen here in Jonesborough. It's that simple. I want to make sure that our police department's fully funded and that, you know, they're capable of protecting all of us. And when I see things that concern me in other cities, I want to make sure it doesn't happen in Jonesborough. And I think our board would be the same way.
If I can just respond, one of the reasons we moved here to Jonesborough is we're not another city. We are Jonesborough. And secondly, to keep them adequately, I think you passed a budget which is going to have 2 new police officers.
Absolutely.
So why the issue? That's all I want to know.
Ask the ones
I
who are
think
asking the
there's
questions.
something underneath that people are concerned about. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ed. All right, anyone else? Thought Glenn was going to get up and speak because he is a resident of Jonesborough. He's,
I can talk. Anybody know any sheep walkers?
he bought a little home here, a little fixer-upper. And so,
Everybody knows my sauce.
well, back in the old day, we'd all got together and come over there with our hammers and stuff and helped you. But all right, no one else?
Old days, yeah.
Okay, thank you for those comments, and now we'll move into our old business, and it's about our school projects again, and it's just discussion and possible action concerning approval of a corporate authorization resolution for an interim financing plan for the Jonesborough K-8 school project. Jim, is anything in there you want to address?
No, Mayor, it's fairly straightforward. Just open up an account with the bank that's going to handle the financing so bills can be paid.
There you go. So this is another important step, getting us closer to that finish line.
Yes, sir.
And Jim, there's two recommendations in there. Do we need to take those individually, or we can do those together?
Probably need to do those individually.
All right, Alderman, you see the recommendation number 1. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that? If not, I'll take a motion to approve recommendation 1.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve from Alderman Causey,
Second.
second from Alderman Countermine. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Causey,
Aye.
Alderman Carmine,
Aye.
Alderman Callahan,
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
All right, and now we'll move into recommendation 2. Can I get a motion for that, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon. Got a second from Alderman Countermine. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. And really all we did there, we switched from First Horizon Bank over to Pinnacle Bank. That was something that was recommended to us, and it's important for the project.
The interest rate was unbelievable.
It is. It's like,
Less than 1%.
yep, 0.92%. That's like, almost like thievery.
It's like
Yes.
3 months.
Using somebody else's money to educate our kids in a way, so it's an important project. All right, now we're going to move into new business. Discussion and possible action concerning approval of a resolution authorizing the issuance of an interest-bearing general obligation capital outlay notes, Series 2020, in the amount not to exceed $1 million and providing for the payment of said notes. All right. In that's what we talked about earlier, some of these projects we want to work on. And Craig and Glenn, I think, put a lot of time in this to outline the, I guess, 8 projects that we're considering. And we probably can only do 8 of them, or 7 of them, depending on what we decide to do here, or we could always find some savings in all of them and come up and get them all done. For example, we're looking at needing to finish Lincoln Park, which is our new park that's under construction right now up at the senior center. That's one of the largest projects we need to finish, and we had hopes of. We've always been very effective in Jonesborough. Craig does a great job leading our workforce here, but we also use inmate labor, and that's not been available to us. And those guys get a lot of work done, so it's kind of made us, change the way we're approaching some projects, and which leads us to this. We've got a couple of little foot bridges. I know that's we've been needing to replace for a couple of years. They look like simple projects, but they're not. But I think Craig has developed a good plan to make sure these bridges will stand the test of time better than the old ones. So we're looking to get both of those done. I'm certain those will get approved. As Tammy mentioned earlier, Shell Road, it's been something the town has talked about for over 20 years. But we got a narrow road there with not a lot of room to work with and drainage issues. So it's a tough project, costly project, but one that we're probably going to get done. Depending on what the alderman would like to do. We've went and laid those new water lines up East Main Street, and when you do that, you break some pavement. So we've got a need to pave some of East Main Street. Also got a dog park we're trying to build. And Ron Keel talked about the dog park a little bit today with Glenn. And, so we'll have probably some more discussion about that. And we've got some sidewalks that we, need to improve through our town. Whether or not they can all be done at one time is another story, but, we've got some sidewalks we want to keep improving, because we want people to get out and walk and, utilize this beautiful town we have. We've also got Persimmon Ridge Park, that's been in, a town since the 1970s, and I don't think it's changed much since then. And, we've made some promises to the kids down there, and this is a good opportunity to do some things. Craig and I have walked the park, and I think Adam and Terry have done some, paid some attention down there as well, and, excited about it. So we've got some needs. That's the ones we're looking at. Glenn, how would you like to approach that? Do you want us to come to a conclusion on any of these tonight, or we let you speak to maybe each one briefly?
Sure.
What your thoughts
Sure.
are.
Yeah, so just for the general public to know, multiple projects going on. Myself and Craig got together, and really Craig went cranking out reporting on each one of these projects, which were high priority projects or discussed for various lengths of time, different times. But of course, with every project, you have to know what the funding is. So that was the missing variable. So we put together a plan of what we thought were priority projects from the Lincoln Park, as you mentioned, down to Persimmon Ridge Park, and figured out that we think that as far as for FY21 or this fiscal year, we'd be able to get a loan for $1 million, and the general fund being able to support that debt service this year and subsequent years. Basically, it's $1 million loan through municipal bond fund, 8 years at right now it's at 2.22%. The lower amount of years that you take debt, the lower the interest rate. So we thought 8 years was a good timing. The issue is that the projects total $1,330,000. Now, of course, these are projected costs. I mean, we would hope to be under, but these are conservative costs that we think. I've tried to lead as far as through the budget workshops and through the budgeting process, talking back and forth with Craig. Really, I put some red letters, as you notice. I keep using that. That's not necessarily to lead you into those are the priority projects from Lincoln Park down to the dog park. These can be shifted around. I think the priority is that we know that we have these projects. We know that $1 million is what we budgeted for, the interest for this year. The thought is this loan, I think we can probably close it out first week in November would be the goal. And then by the first meeting in November, being prepared to actually prioritize the list so that staff can go begin whether or not it's we have to go to bid or we need to just finish projects. So I think, having another 30 days is not an issue in my opinion. Craig can validate that, but we have to have some kind of indication on what the priority list is.
Okay.
I mean, we can give our opinions, as Shell Road's been mentioned.
Yeah.
I've been here since May, and Shell Road would be one of the number one roads that I've heard of, and that's one of those, hey, we're gonna get that done. Well, now we have a means to fund getting it done. Same way with the footbridges. So we've been tasked to do what we had to do, and we've been very transparent. The board has been very transparent about these projects. We've talked about it over and over again. It's just, I think if we give another 30 days for the board, unless they're ready tonight, another 30 days, we have to have an answer by the November meeting.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Glenn. And me give you my thoughts, and then the alderman can, I'm sure, have spent time looking at that. Lincoln Park is one that we have to get done. It's one that's it is the most expensive project, but we got to get it done. And hopefully that number that we're looking at can be trimmed somewhat. But if not, that's our number. The 2 footbridges, the cost in those are somewhat minimum. And to me, I think we knock out those first 3 right there, the 2 footbridges in Lincoln Park. Shell Road, I think it's one that Craig is looking at me. They can't hear me.
On the live stream.
Okay. Is this on? All right. Is this better? Okay. First, like we said, the Lincoln Park, the 2 footbridges are no-brainers, I think, on getting those done. Shell Road, something we've talked about for 20 years. The funds are there to do it. To me, that's those first 4. And then after that, Glenn and I also had some time with Ron Keel in the room there, and I was getting his opinion on things and asking him what he thought a dog park should cost, and that's what I was thinking. The dog park is showing a cost there of $125,000. That's on top of what we've already budgeted somewhat. And
We've
what we're-
budgeted $75,000 currently in the budget. And the
We have the
125.
Randy Boyd Foundation giving us $25,000. The Civitan's giving us $25,000. We budgeted $25,000, so we've already got $75 set aside to build
Correct.
that dog park, and so this $125 is on top of that. So
Yes.
we feel like, or I feel like, $200,000 for a dog park is too much, and if we can get that built for $75, which I think is almost double what Irwin spent on their dog park, close to it.
I'd say
And,
close
but
to
that, so that frees up $125,000, which I think we move down to Persimmon Ridge Park and get this 1970s facility, updated where it needs to go. And that would be my priorities. And then we got, the sidewalks there. That'd be a priority, I think, for another year. If sales tax keeps growing and as funds become available.
Do we have a timeline?
Yeah.
On how long these do we have an estimated timeline?
On these,
I'm
Glenn
saying
and
the
Craig,
top 4.
Stephen's asking, is there timelines on completion of the Lincoln Park, footbridges, Shell Road? So we're looking to start those, I guess, as soon as possible if they're approved, and then what's the timelines on them?
I'll address the Lincoln Park. So as you know, we were in a contract with TDEC, and that project, due to some certain circumstances, we ended up to where we had a deadline of August 29th. We entered into basically an agreement with them that our first contract, or the original contract, did end on August 29th. They are working, the state is working on a second contract with us. We think, and I think maybe in my notes, we're thinking a minimum of 1 year. Maybe it's 1 year to 2 years of a new contract to finish the park. So if we're assuming 1 year, I think we could probably, in the right weather, we would be much better, maybe 6 to 9 months, depending on weather. So we know that we obviously can't go past that 1 year. So we're very confident that it would be less than 1 year. We can do work right now. We just can't do work that we're going to be looking for reimbursement. So the state's been generous enough to say, hey, you can continue some work, but not for anything for reimbursement.
Right.
So as soon as the second contract comes before us, we're hoping very soon, then we can start the more of the work that's for reimbursement. So if basically we think a year, we've not seen a new contract, but we would do it in less time than that.
We're gonna contract all that out. We're not doing it in-house, right?
Correct. We're still on course with the concrete and then the putting up the structures. We might do some minor concrete work that wasn't part of the original bid, but as far as the majority, yes.
Very good. All right, Craig?
Mayor, to address where you were going with respect to Persimmon Ridge Park, and then some of these other projects that we've got here, and please understand, first off, that this is in no way a complaint at all, because it's not. We've been able to do some really awesome things in this town with that inmate crew. But with that inmate crew, we have really tied them up on some long-term projects, because it was an inmate crew and not a private contractor. You know, it took a long time to finish the McKinney Center, a couple of years. That was the first project we started. Then it was the Senior Center, and then it was the train depot, and then the Boone Street Market, and then it's been the Jackson Theater. So we have tied that inmate crew up for long periods of time on some really major projects. And it's put us in a bind when we lost them. Now, we all know at some point beyond the horizon we're going to put COVID behind us.
and hopefully get our county inmates back and get our state inmates back. In the meantime, these projects have to continue forward, and so we're looking to do some private contracts with these. So the one thing that I think is going to be very beneficial, not only to being able to do some repairs on the sidewalks on the West Main side of town, but also do a lot of quality work in Persimmon Ridge, is that if we could get that inmate crew back, you know, we could do a lot of really good work in our parks and in other places on a lot shorter term work, and accomplish some really big things for the town as well. So I think if we get that inmate crew back, and Glenn and I had discussions about, you know, at some point in time, as you said, we've had that park since the 70s. Maybe it's time, whether it's Park and Rec Committee or, you know, a committee get together and maybe develop a vision for Persimmon Ridge Park and really get that inmate crew back to work on that park and some of those sidewalks when we are able to get them back. We could do some really big things just on a shorter, you know, on shorter term projects with them. And again, if we're on a project that it takes us 2 or 3 years, that's fine. As I've said to you many times, the board sets the priority. You tell me what you want done, and I'll do my best to get that done. But I think if we can get some of these major projects like Jackson Theater and Lincoln Park behind us, that we can really focus on a lot of things that need to be done, even if it's considered housekeeping, a lot of things that we can get done that we've been wanting to get done for a long time. And I think Persimmon Ridge is certainly one of those.
Thank you, Craig. Well, I agree with, you know, it's always been a little bit of a fear, though, with us using this inmate labor, and it's great. I talked with Ron Keel about that some today. This inmate labor, it's not just valuable for us, it's great for the inmates, because, you know, they're guys with skills, or they're people who want to develop skills, so when they get out, you know, they have a trade that they can go in and work and live a productive life. So, you know, those folks, they like coming to Jonesborough. Craig is great to work with. We feed them, and you know, so it's a great program. It's a win for us and a win for them, the inmates, and the prison system. But I've always felt like sometimes we rely a little bit too much on them, and it took something like this to realize, you know, there's times when you can't rely on it. To me, in this here, we don't rely on them at all. And if we have them next year, then that's just a bonus that we can benefit from. But
I think the future and the financial funding or the project funding is Plan A or Plan B. You have inmates, here's what it's going to be. And in the event that we don't have inmates or that kind of labor available, then we have to know that the realistic number for a project of a just in case. You know, that variable is a great variable to have inmate labor, and they do a great job, and it's a win-win for both us and the inmates. But when it stops, like the COVID, government doesn't stop. Right. We have to keep going. We got to do our social distance. We still have to do construction. So, I mean, you can see construction going on in Jonesborough right now. People are not slowing down. It continues. Yeah. It's just inmates that's institutional. They're under a totally different authority, you know, that has to look after the whole jail or prison.
Absolutely.
Do you have a time frame on when the dog park has to be done with that grant?
Yeah, so I'll be contacting, the only time limit was through the Randy Boyd or the Boyd Foundation. So I'll make a phone call to Mr. Boyd. He's actually the UT president. So I'll be talking to the president. Not the president, but so I'll call him and I'll talk to him. And of course, COVID is an interesting variable, but I'll find out as far as an extension. I know the intent behind it was that you produce the dog park. How you do that, there wasn't so much of a concern or how big or better it is. It's all about that the fund goes to creating a dog park, and at some point is to have an opening day and invite him. So I'll try and get a hold of him tomorrow and see about any kind of extension, I would predict, it's probably not good to do, but I'll predict that he would be amenable to that circumstance, especially that we know that we want to do it.
Can we downsize it a little bit financially?
You can. So one of the thoughts was, that's why I presented that the recent or the closest thing to a diagram that shows the elements of the park. We have access issues from on TDOT. If you know the current access over at the garage, that was TDOT permitted. Move on down, you'll see. I don't know how far it is, Craig, but I want to call it a temporary entrance already that's gravelled. That's where we projected the access point. Both myself and Todd Wood met with TDOT, a couple of representatives. They were iffy on that access point, pointed more towards the current one over at the garage, but doing that, the amount of monies and infrastructure that would take from going from the current garage access, which is mixing trucks with pedestrians possibly and other public private vehicles, and it's just it wasn't designed to be like an intersection, so that hampers things. And so we're looking at alternate sites as a possibility if TDOT will not budge on the first one, but reducing it, that's the scope of the project. And right now it's basically, you think of it as a blank canvas, so we can technically approve, or the board can approve to say, for $75,000, if that's the pleasure of the board, to direct staff to say, hey, here's our budget, here's what we think we can do it for. You come back with us, to us with a plan. We'll come back with a plan. I mean, I'm confident in that. If you want to go for the full-fledged effect, then you have that plan in front of you. If it's a phase one that says $75,000, get this done, come back at the budget workshops and let's talk about a phase two or phase three, we can do that. I don't want to squash the original. That's not, that's not what we're here for, but the budget or the funding is what you get. If you fund $75,000, we will get a dog park that is to be proud of for $75,000.
Well, my thought was, I was talking to Glenn about that today, I know Terry and Adam and I were on the board when we probably approved this. I don't think Virginia might not be down here yet, and Stephen, but I don't think we had in our thoughts of a dog park costing $200,000. We were happy about the $25,000 plus the Civitan giving $25,000. So, we were kind of in that range, and then $75,000, sounds fine. I like the idea of phase one, phase two. We can always add to it as years go by, versus building something when we have other priorities. Yeah. I think we kind of spread that out and
a couple elements we talked about before and back and forth was, one is access, of course.
Yeah, that was a big part of the cost of going where we're.
Yes. So you have access.
It's going to take a lot of the budget.
Correct. Parking.
Not the park itself. Just
because it's. I mean, I don't think people. You got parking, and then you've got facilities like a restroom. So those are all variables or elements of the current location that are they're still variables. They cost to get the access. They cost to have a restroom. Whereas if we have to go to an alternate location, we're trying to look at those areas that maybe there's already an existing restroom. Right. Maybe there's already an existing parking, and then that starts reducing that cost.
And then you add the features back in there. So we've got, Persimmon Ridge is a beautiful park, and it's got some of those facilities down there. And if there's a place for a dog park, that might be the most.
That's right.
Make the most
a lot
sense.
of people take their dogs there.
Already, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of times ballparks, when they're not being used, are inherently
and
dog
there's a lot
parks.
of space down there too.
Yeah. But we can present that, in a good form for if the board wants to wait till the November. In a good form on each one of these projects are pretty straightforward. Some of these, as Craig would tell you, the footbridges are steel construction. They're not wood. They're going to last years and years. Longevity is one of the things that we have as one of our goals, is longevity of these projects. But we can come back to the board with dog park, alternate site, current site, and whether we call it a workshop or we just call it a presentation. It'll be part of your packet.
I think we can ask the board tonight, and they can choose to say yea or nay, but to me, do we want to just set the budget for the dog park at $75,000 and instruct you all just to go explore where can we build this dog park for $75,000? What do we get? And
I would say do the first 5 that are on there and see where we are then with money, and then make some decisions. As you said, these are very conservative, right?
Yes, sir, as an example, I already have the steel I-beams for both bridge structures. We don't have to purchase that. We had purchased the materials for one of the bridges, but they were purchased a couple of years ago, and my concern is that some of that material may have gotten used on some other projects. So if that material is still there, then we could probably get them both back up for maybe around the 10,000 range. So
Well, even like the
I think
530.
there's certainly some potential savings
Yeah.
there.
Well, and like the 530,000 for the Lincoln Park, that mayor, we won't go over that, right?
That's a
You know,
great
it
question.
always scares me, and I try to be very conservative.
Yeah, that's what you
As
said.
an
When we
example-
talked about this, we said,
Yes,
put the
and-
conservative numbers
And as
on.
an example too, if you go up to Lowe's and buy a simple 2 by 10 or 2 by 12 today, it's 3 or 4 times what it was this time a year ago. It's a supply-demand thing. It's, you know, again, we talk about COVID and how it hits different areas, and so a lot of manufacturing has had to close for certain periods of time, and then they get behind, that drives the price up. So all of these numbers I have tried hard to be conservative on, because the last thing I want to do is come back to a board meeting hat in hand and say, we missed this by $100,000.
Exactly.
So I think we can do it for less. I think we can do it for less. I certainly hope it would be no more, just based on the conservative way that I tried to put these figures together.
Do you see us doing these things one at a time, or some of them at the same time?
Well, and another good point with Persimmon Ridge Park, let's say we don't get the inmates back. Lincoln Park, once we get the contract, we can continue that project with mainly for hire labor. I can work with our street department crew to do these 2 footbridges. The paving on East Main Street is done in conjunction with the Washington County Highway Department. They'll be doing that paving. So I would say, as long as those footbridges downtown have been down, that we finish our work at Lincoln Park, then I get the street department moved down to get these 2 bridges replaced fairly quickly. Then we do the work that needs to be done on Shell Road, and hopefully by that time, we may or may not have the inmates back. I'm hoping if we get the inmates back, I could start the street department on construction of the dog park and take the inmate crew to Persimmon Ridge Park. But those first 5, I think we could certainly get done this budget year, depending on the weather we have in the winter time. Does
And
that
once,
answer your
yeah,
question?
well, because what I was thinking is, once they're done, we'll have a better sense of how much money we've spent,
Yes, sir.
either good or bad.
And we can
Rather than
report
making-
back.
Rather than making plans now for the other ones, which we may or may not have the money to do.
And we can report back on, it's not a problem each monthly meeting to report back the progress that doesn't just, not just the labor or construction part, but the funding
Yeah.
part, and see where we're at. If we want to call it almost like a drawdown,
Yeah.
we kind of see where we're at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because like with the dog park and Persimmon Ridge Park, one of the things we've done in Jonesborough, and I use the McKinney Center and the Senior Center and the Chucky Depot as examples, we do a good job. We
Mhm.
want our citizens, we want the people that move here to say, wow, this is good.
Yeah,
We just don't want to have a
yeah.
piece of land with a fence around it.
No,
You know.
it does, Jonesboro has a great reputation for doing quality work, and
Exactly.
if you go through our facilities inside or outside, you know, we have work to do,
Yeah.
especially on some of the outside parks and reinventing them and revitalizing, but, oh yeah, they're first-class facilities. You're proud to take people on a tour
Exactly.
in the town.
Exactly.
It's often that you don't have to avoid
Exactly.
certain areas of town because someone's coming in. You're proud to take them wherever they need to go.
And different things attract different people to town.
Absolutely.
They look for different services.
Absolutely.
We want them to all be good.
Yeah. I was over in,
Like those up, down through East Main, we've got to do those.
yeah,
And the other ones, like we could wait if you get the okay from the president. And you know, Persimmon Ridge, and I walk by those dugouts every day
yeah,
and think of when I was, you know, that we need work out there, but I'd rather do it when we can really do it well.
Right.
And have the money to do it,
Yeah.
rather than, you know, skimping and
Mhm.
building something that
mhm,
we're not proud of.
yeah,
That's my feeling anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think with the numbers here, I don't think there's gonna be any skimping involved. I think you know, allocating $150,000, which maybe end up being $125,000 if we move
Mhm.
the dog park money there, $125,000 gets a lot done down at Persimmon Ridge Park. I think to me, the question is, you got the choice between the dog park, your sidewalks, or Persimmon Ridge. You know, where's your priority there? And, for me, I just feel like $200,000 for a dog park is excessive. It could start at $75,000. If we've got the land, $75,000, you can make a lot of improvements to that dog park with a lot of features. If you've got the parking already available, if you've got the restrooms already available, then you've got, after the fencing, probably $50,000 left to add features, you know, quality features to that facility. So $75,000 should work for a dog park. That frees up $125,000 to go to Persimmon Ridge Park that's been there since the 1970s. And I don't think we really need to probably use that much down there, but that gives more than enough to do a quality project down there. The sidewalks are another issue. It's a bigger project, you know, it's you know, $175,000, and that's labor intensive, and, you know, to me, that's something we need to address, but.
Yeah, because that's a safety issue too.
Mayor, if I could, you know, the city of Elizabeth has an inmate construction crew. And that's all that crew does over there basically is
Sidewalks.
repair sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah.
So at some point, when we get these major projects behind us that we're trying to do, you know, we can make a lot of progress on upgrading our sidewalks again with those inmates, and you're taking all of that labor side out of it. So basically what you have at that point is the cost of that concrete
Right.
that's put on the ground, which is a really big deal and a big saving.
Are you wanting the alderman to make a motion to allow you to go out and arrest some good masonaries to come out and do some concrete work?
When will you be bidding the Lincoln Park?
Yeah, so as you know, Summers Taylor won the bid for the concrete. We are reviewing a draft for work to be done as far as we're supplying the materials for the structures to basically go out for a contractor to be able to do the structures. We have to be careful in that the second contract, the new contract with the state, that's where your reimbursables are. So we're looking at our reimbursables being absorbed into the work to construct the structures. So you know, as soon as we already have the document in hand, as soon as we hear from the state that they're ready for the new contract to be approved, then we'll turn around and bid it, and then I'd say if the weather permits, they can start construction, you know, within 30 days. We've got the concrete we got to work out. There's certain things that we can go ahead and start working and planning on and having physical movement that we know that we're not gonna seek reimbursement for.
I think if I've heard right, and if somebody believes differently, voice your opinion, but I think we're all in agreement that the first 4 on the list, we need to make a priority. So can we get a motion to direct Glenn and Craig to kind of move forward with those 4 items, so we get those out of the way? And let's vote on those first 4, and then we can address the dog park, Persimmon Ridge, and those separately, because the first 4, I think
What
we're all in
about the
agreement.
paving? Is that critical? That's,
I guess that's the first 5, I'm
5,
sorry,
yeah.
first 5.
yeah.
Stephen, you got any feedback on that?
I like that idea a lot. I think we need to reevaluate the dog park for sure.
Okay,
And,
good.
And I'm totally fine with the first 4.
First 5. First 5.
First 5.
You misspoke, because I made you misspeak. All right, Alderman, can I get a motion to send to Glenn and Craig the first priority of the 5 items listed, which is Lincoln Park, the 2 footbridges, Shell Road, and East Main Street paving. Those total conservatively $880,000 of the money that we'll have available. That'll leave us a little over $120,000 available to do something else with, whether it's Persimmon Ridge. But let's approve those first 5. Can I get a motion to direct that to Glenn?
Oh, Glenn's got.
Oh, Glenn's.
I meant to say that, probably can't hear me, but, that the agenda item is the resolution authorizing issuance of general obligation capital outlay notes. So if we can approve that.
First.
That's a big, and you can, I think you can include those 5 projects.
priorities.
Those first 5 projects as the priorities under that issue.
All right, so our recommendation will be to approve the general obligation and capital outlay note series 2020 as presented with instructions to make the first 5 items on our list, Lincoln Park, the 2 footbridges, Shell Road, and East Main Street paving as 5 priority projects as part of that plan.
Second.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Dixon. I got a second from Alderman Countermine. Any other discussion?
Just one question is, if the dog park comes in and they say, you got this amount of time you've got to do, then we're gonna have to come back and add it.
Possibly, yeah. It's-
We'll have to
And
reverse
I'll
money.
report back as soon, I won't wait for a meeting, I'll email everybody and tell
Okay.
y'all what,
Yeah.
what Mr. Boyd has to say.
Yeah, a big thing there is going to be finding us an alternative location.
But then he knows that we still have a desire to move forward with a dog park.
All right, any other discussion?
Awfully positive development. Glad to see it. And
Yep.
Shell Road's long overdue, so good to see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Madam Recorder, call for the vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. And one thing about Randy Boyd, Glenn, when you talked to him, when he stood out there in front, and I was talking to him, he says he'd love to move here and live here. That's how much he loved Jonesborough, so to remind him of that, okay? We'll build the dog park when he buys a home here. All right, as part of that, I'd like for the alderman just to think about, our priorities. There's $120,000 remaining there, and we can direct, Glenn and them where to go with that at our next meeting. But my priority would be to leave the dog park at where we have it budgeted right now at $75,000 as a phase 1, and then we can always add to it in the future. But direct that $125,000 to Persimmon Ridge and get that project started. That'd be my thought in November. Anybody else got anything they'd like to say about this project?
And it sounds like, just listening to Craig a few moments ago talking about, or at least what I gleaned from Craig's comments, kind of like a plan for Persimmon Ridge. I don't know if timing would be on our side to start moving down that path. But I mean, as you're saying, if you've got some cash that you'd like to invest in Persimmon Ridge, wouldn't it be nice to know what is the long-term plan for Persimmon Ridge?
And Alderman Dixon, I'd say if, in a perfect world, that we would be lucky if we started work on Persimmon Ridge, that it would be sometime in the spring at the absolute earliest that we'd be able to start work. So it's not like you don't have time maybe for a vision of what you would like to see it. As an example, a couple of people we've talked about different locations for a possible dog park there. But in a couple having a vision,
Yep.
there's a lot of land down there that we could do a lot with.
Craig, I think you stumbled upon something because dogs love catching frisbees. So they're going to be the users of the frisbee park. We're going to combine that course with the dog park. Good job. All right, so we know what our homework is, and but I think we've got the potential to do something special with the dog park and then add to it, and we're going to get Persimmon Ridge done. All right, I think we did good work there. Anything else we need from that, Glenn? Are you good with all that?
Great.
All right. I appreciate Glenn on that when we sat down and discuss some of these things today. You know, he's a reason why he's here. Our board hired somebody with experience, and part of that experience is he's got a background in already doing dog parks in other places, and he's been a town recorder, so he's used to handling money and making sure the budgets all work, and I could tell early on that he thought that's a lot of money for a dog park, and so I appreciate the experience you bring with you, Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of a public-private partnership agreement with 3 property owners along West College Street. And that's just making a intersection a little bit safer. Craig, you want to address that, or Glenn?
Craig's the man.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
This is all Craig. I'll let Craig, this is,
We don't need to know about the scope of work. I know what you're doing there. There's two recommendations in there. We probably can take those together, right, Jim?
You can, Mayor. You all need to make some findings about the public benefit of this is important, and it's in the presentation, but you all need to
Verbalize it?
find that that there's public benefit to this project.
that's a great point. I was going to say, and Craig knows about it. This is one of those roads that, as similar to Shell Road, is a reoccurring topic since I've been here. Anderson Road, that area, that intersections, the growth, residential growth in that area, and the different negative impacts, not necessarily of the growth, but more cars, more automobiles, blind spots, different elevations. That's something that we're looking at reducing quite a bit. So I'll let Craig.
And all the landowners are on board, right?
Pardon me?
And all the landowners are on board. Sound like.
I spoke, the first property owners at the corner of Anderson and West College. I got to speak to the husband and wife separately. And so I drafted a letter for them today because I don't know why, but I did not get a contact number for them, and I didn't want to just cold call them again because I obviously caught both of them off guard. But they both were open to discussing with the town, the lady, they don't live there, it's a rental, and she had made the comment, at some point, I know one of our grandchildren is probably going to want to live there, and I don't want them to have to pull out of that driveway every day the way it is. I don't feel comfortable doing it myself, was her comment. And my concern is it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone. As you round that blind curve, you can see the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit at the city limits. And unfortunately, people just don't go the speed limit. And I live just beyond there. I've told my family, come around the curb with your foot on the brake. A T-bone accident is a very, very dangerous accident. I think Orth just finished up with Ashley Meadows. This board approved a development now at the end of Anderson, I believe another 30, 40 homes. So it's not a matter of if we have a T-bone accident there, it's when we have a T-bone accident there. So, I would have a tough time dealing with could we have done something to make that safer as opposed to waiting till somebody got seriously injured or killed and then try to do something. So the biggest issue is because that the banks are so high, that's a state route. We can't put speed tables on it. And surprisingly enough, there's very little right-of-way there. So the only way to make that grade is to get pretty much way back into the property itself to have a slope to where they can maintain and be able to mow their yard and maybe repair a driveway, you know, because if we're working on private property, before we leave there, it'll be as good as or better than it was before we started. So, you know, this is one of those issues, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, the public safety requires it, needs it. But I can't have town staff work on private property without this board's approval and then a written agreement signed by the property owner and either the mayor or the town administrator. And I'm hoping that we can make that happen fairly quickly, because I'm telling you, we will get on that project as quickly as we can because of it's just so dangerous.
Yeah.
We have two top dangerous intersections in Jonesborough. That one and the one here on Cherokee where Skyline comes into. We're going to fix that with the new school and a traffic circle.
Right.
So we're fixing two of the most dangerous intersections that we have in Jonesborough, and that really pleases me that we've done what we could to make it safer.
Very good, Craig. Alderman, any questions? I think we all know this is an important project for the community.
Can we
I think
approve them
it's
both
great.
at once?
What's that?
Can we approve them both at once?
Yes, we can approve recommendation 1 and 2 together.
I did just want to ask, just for the sake, because we do have some Shell Road folks here this evening. I just want to, could if you don't object, Mayor, could you please just elaborate, you town administrator, as to some of the needs that we will need to pursue on Shell Road, because there's like stormwater issues, things like that. Can we at least elaborate, because we're going to have to make some purchases. We're going to have to do some work on Shell Road. But in comparison, it's not going to be as big of an issue to do Anderson Road if we get the property owners, so we can move quicker on this one compared to Shell Road. So we've got to make some purchases. I've just answered it, but okay,
Great answer. I don't.
Thank you.
I'll let Craig kind of conclude on it, but just to let you know, as far as Anderson, it's not as far as the potential 3 property owners. We need them to partner with us. That's not necessarily, let's just say, to improve their private property. It's for the public's gain, as far as for the public good. Because right now, you know, a blind intersection is detrimental. We're trying to remove that detrimental as much as we can and make that improvement for not just city, but if you drive around here, I mean, you ain't from around here sometimes. It's your city, your county, your tourists, these are public roads that are affecting other people's travel, not just us, commuters. And then as far as on Shell Road, you're right, it's I can't remember all the conversations we had, but it is not a glorified paving project. There's a widening component, there's a drainage component, there's a curbing component. Then there's also the thought ahead of time, as Craig and I have talked about, just talked about it today. Speed tables. Can we avoid speed tables? You do improvements, all of a sudden people enjoy the kind
Extra
of a fast,
room.
you know, you get a little bit faster, as Craig said, you widen it out, you know, as far as public safety, you increase the speed sometimes. So, you know, sometimes there's what's called a road diet. You kind of do a design to where it does not influence you to want to drive faster. So the Shell Road project is probably more of a major, I say major road improvement with all these components of infrastructure, whereas the Anderson is definitely to eliminate or severely reduce the site distance issues. I don't know if that answers, you had already answered it before and probably answered it better than I did, but those are the two different projects that have two different components to it.
Very good. Anything else, Alderman? All right, if not, I'll take a motion to approve those two recommendations.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Causey, got a second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? All right, call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Carmine.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of an acquisition of a roll-off truck from Washington County. Ron Keel and I spent a little time talking about this too. It's something that affects our recycling program, and it sounds like we're getting a good deal on a roll-off, only $1. And the trade-off there is we let the county residents bring some brush to our facility where we can chip it up and burn it and all that. Glenn, Jim's got his arm up there.
Mayor, I had one concern, that the way this is written, it sounds as, it could be interpreted as an indefinite commitment to do that, and you really can't commit a future board to that.
Right.
So I think we need to make it clear that that is as we're able. That you'll accept the brush from the county as we're able, because at some point, the board might have to make a decision that we're not able to accept that brush. For instance, if we weren't able to incinerate it, then you might have to stop taking that.
Should we put like a 1-year limit on it?
You could do that, you could put a limit on it, time limit, or you could just say as we're able, either one.
Okay. Glenn, you got a thought?
No, I agree with that. Not an indefinite time. If it becomes a overburden for us as far as receiving, then we can evaluate it and report back. So
If you say as we're able, it kind of lets you can let it go on well past the year if you're able to do it, but it just, I would
Yeah.
think that the county would understand that, you can't get committed for an indefinite. For a depreciating asset that's only gonna last a certain period of time, you can't bind the county or the town for in perpetuity.
My thought is that we've had a little bit of issue, or it's caused us a few problems with brush from the county, sometimes building up our facility too fast. So to me, I think we put a time limit on it. That way we do have a drop finish time. So whether it's 1 year or 2 years.
I mean, I don't know if the county would agree, but if we talk about we're all on the same fiscal year, if we want to go ahead and just say from now and through June 30th of 2021, and then readdress it again with the new fiscal year, or do it for 1 year.
Yeah,
I think we still, but if in 6 months that we get overwhelmed that we cannot handle the amount of brush, whether it's chipping or incinerating. So whatever language the town attorney thinks we ought to have, that we have some flexibility in case we have to readdress the issue.
Well, 'cause like in the spring when the equipment was down, we couldn't take anybody's brush.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that you could do both of these, but including, you could say for 1 year or 2 years, but if you include the as we're able, it takes care of the situation when we had to shut the brush yard down.
Yeah.
Rather than someone arguing, well, you should take it, you can burn it later, store it pile it
And
somewhere.
we don't have any place to put it.
Yeah.
Well, and one thought, mid-year June, my problem there would be that's probably a time of year when they're going to want to be bringing brush there. And if we cut them off at that time, to me, it needs to be 1 year, which would take them out to October, or we go 2 years. What's the board think? But I don't think you need an end date. My thought was we put in there that we will accept the county's residents to bring brush as we are able, or not to exceed 1 year or 2 year, whatever the board. Would that work? Got a nod from the attorney?
Can we
So
ask
put
that our,
both in there.
go ahead.
So we're gonna put both in there, as we are able.
Not to
until-
exceed 1 year or 2 years.
Can we ask that our staff take names and addresses to make sure that they are Washington County residents and not from
They would ask for a driver's
surrounding
license, I
counties?
guess, or,
I know a lot of places that does that, takes a list and Is
Look at the
that,
car tags, I guess.
is that something our
Yeah.
staff can
We can do that.
Okay. Well, let's, Terry, Adam, what do y'all think? 1 year or 2 year?
1 year's fine.
1 year, okay. It's part of the motion, if I can, Alderman, to approve that recommendation with the addition that the county residents can bring the brush to our town's brush yard as we are able to receive or not to exceed 1 year.
Could we put, if, because if they say, well, we won't do it, is there any chance of that if we just say 1 year? I would like to give you the authority that we've passed it to say, to negotiate that. If it takes 2 years.
Yeah,
I'd rather
yeah.
get the truck for $1
Yeah.
than to say, well, we'll sell it to somebody else.
Well, let's
They want to get rid of it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
it's at
A
some
year.
point a higher motivation on the brush. I mean, it's,
We don't want to overwhelm
But
our,
I'd like to give you the authority if it takes that.
if you want to give me the authority, I'm glad to accept it.
and what do you want Glenn to do at 1 year, address the situation, whether to continue it or not?
No, to present it as 1 year, but if they say no, to give him a little negotiating.
Okay,
power.
all right. And adding to that, not to exceed 1 year, we will add and give the town administrator authority to negotiate any extension beyond 1 year.
Yeah,
All right, may I get a motion for that?
so moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Countermine,
Second.
second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? All right, call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Countermine.
All right.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
All right, motion carried. Got 2 more items here. Discussion and possible action concerning approval for the purchase of a new server for the town's computer system. Looks like there's about a $16,000 cost there. Anybody got any comments about that? Certainly something we need.
So moved.
All right, got a
Second.
motion to approve from Alderman Countermine. We got a second from Alderman Causey. She probably knows they need it. All right, any other discussion? Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Anything you wanted to address there, Glenn?
No, just
Okay.
thank you, because it's, I mean, just like with cybersecurity and server and storage and going to the cloud eventually, it's, technology is moving fast, so we're moving with it.
All right, very good. Just because we're historic doesn't mean our server needs to be.
Correct.
All right, discussion and possible action concerning approval of change order on the Jackson Theater project. I think this is something brought on by not having our inmate labor a little bit, right? So we got to do a little change order to keep things moving.
Correct. So a lot of it also has to do with the CDBG grant that we have through the state, and that is predominantly the facade, which is what a facade grant is. And so the work that's proposed for you is to complete that facade part of it, be able to finish that grant and some other work as well as part of this. So we thought this was the priority to get that closed up. The other part, as far as in the budget, that's $130,800 that would go towards completing the CDBG grant and other parts. I mean, there's other components of the interior as well.
Right. But this is going to get a pretty face on that building and get our marquee sign up. So
Yeah.
it's really going to take it to another
Right.
level. And kind of exciting where we need to go. Alderman, any comments about that? If not, I'll take a motion to approve that recommendation.
So moved.
All right, we got a motion to approve from Alderman Causey. We got a second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Calamine.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. And Glenn, quick update, our website, is that up full blast yet? Or-
That is not full blast, but Net 360, it's going very, very well. I actually caught a glimpse of what I'm just going to call the front page, and
Yeah.
you're actually on it. So I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, it looks really good. This company's looking at. So no, it's not up and running yet. But they're taking a lot of the information we have. I met with the marketing team this past Friday, and just talked about town government, and some of it's a little bit boring. It's black and white. So, but there's also accolades and other things that we're doing as far as whether it's police, fire, marketing, whatever we're doing, parks. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting. We're going to get a lot of input from staff at every level, and whether you're moving to the left or up and down, there's a lot of thought into this. So it looks really good as basically where you're giving a welcome to Jonesborough message. So,
All right.
which I received several times since I've not only worked here but moved here, so it's appreciated.
All right. Alderman, anything? All right.